All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our City Council special meeting to interview Environmental Planning Commission applicants. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand. All right, and we'll move on to item 3, which is the roll call. The city clerk will take attendance by roll call.
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Hicks?
Here.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Here.
Councilmember Showalter?
Here.
Vice Mayor Ramos?
Here.
Mayor Kamei? You have a quorum with Councilmember McAllister absent.
Great, thank you. So we'll move on to item 4, which is our study session. The purpose of the meeting this evening is for the council to interview applicants for 2 openings on the Environmental Planning Commission and make a recommendation for adoption at the December 9th, 2025 City Council meeting. Would any member of the public joining us virtually or in person like to provide comment on this item? If so, please click the raise hand button in Zoom or submit a blue speaker card to the city clerk. I'm not seeing anybody in person, so I'll move to virtual. Do not see any hands. So I'm going to close public comment and we'll move forward. So per the selection process outlined in Council Policy number K-2, the interviews will be conducted in a panel format. Each applicant will receive the same amount of time to answer each question, and the questions selected by the council will be asked in randomized round-robin order. The council may ask a limited number of clarifying questions in the event that an applicant's answer was unclear or otherwise not understood. Clarifying questions should not be used to allow an applicant an additional opportunity to expand on an original response. On February 18, 2025, the council posed the following questions to EPC applicants in the denoted time limit for each category. Would any council member like to suggest changes to the questions or propose a time allocation per question? And I think just because maybe not everyone has the questions in front of them for the purpose of the public, I'll just read the questions quickly. And then people can queue up if they like. So for the first question, at 1 minute, it was, what would you bring to the Environmental Planning Commission that is unique? For question number 2, that was 2 minutes. What are your thoughts on the city's existing plans, like the general plan and precise plans, specifically the downtown precise plan? Question 3, for 90 seconds. How would you evaluate proposals to implement the housing element components? Question 4, for 2 minutes. How does good land use improve our city, and what is good land use? And question number 5, 1 minute, what is the role of a planning commissioner? So those were the 5 questions with the time allocation. I see Councilmember Hicks in the queue.
So the one that I think I might want to change, and I have to say, I am not a person who's super married to changes I suggest or the questions in general, but the number 3, which is how would you evaluate proposals to implement the housing element components? Since we're a little further through the housing element, we seem to never be done with it. But I'm wondering if we could say, what do you think will be the big issues facing the city or the Planning Commission over the next several years, which could include the housing element? So I'm up for, people can say that's terrible. I will not be insulted, or we can go with that.
So for question 3, can you just say it one more time? Would it be the same?
What do you think will be the big issues facing the Planning Commission over the next 2 years, including, and it could, as part 2, it could include implementing the housing element?
How about, okay, so would the time be the same, 1.5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so For question 3, what do you think the big issues facing the Planning Commission will be? For example, implementing the housing element. Does that sound right? Or, okay. We can tweak. Okay. Anyone else have any edits or tweaks to the 5 questions? Councilmember Clark.
I think this is a given, but for incumbents, the first question, you could also talk about sort of what you feel you've brought to the EPC that's unique. I think
Okay.
it's mostly worded toward folks who aren't currently serving. So I think that's a given, but I just want to.
Sure. So for question 1, for 1 minute, what would you bring or what have you brought to the Environmental Planning Commission that is unique? Does that sound okay? All right. Any other edits? No? Councilmember Ramirez?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, not terribly strong feelings, but the final question, what is the role of a planning commissioner, if we retain that question, feels more appropriate early on.
Okay.
So I don't know if you would want that to be the first or second question, but it feels a little belated if it's the last one.
Sure. That makes sense. How about as question 2? Okay. And then all the others would go down. All right, and I can repeat the questions before we go forward. All right. Any other edits or tweaks? All right, so I'll just review what I've heard. So the first question for 1 minute, what would you bring or what have you brought to the Environmental Planning Commission that is unique? Question 2, what is the role of a planning commissioner? Question 3, what are your thoughts on the city's existing plans, like the general plan and precise plans, specifically the downtown precise plan? Question 4, for 1.5 minutes, what do you think the big issues facing the Planning Commission will be? For example, implementing the housing element. And then the last question, how does the last question, question 5, 2 minutes. How does good land use improve our city, and what is good land use? Does that sound correct to everyone? All right. Sounds good. All right. So we've selected the questions, their order, as well as their time allocation. So before we move into interviewing the applicants, I think this go around, I would love to have assistance from my colleagues in asking these questions. So I forgot that there were 5. There are six of us. So if folks don't mind, starting with Councilmember Clark, we could go question 1. Councilor Ramirez can get question 2. The Vice Mayor can get question 3. Councilmember Showalter can get 4, and then Councilmember Hicks can get 5. Does that sound great? All right, and hopefully that provides some variety for our applicants as well, instead of just hearing my voice. All right, that sounds great. So the council will now interview the applicants for the Environmental Planning Commission, and the randomized order begins with Hala Al-Shawani, who's virtual, Tina Pham, Shweta Subramanian, Ida Rose Sylvester, and Jerry Wilburn. So we'll begin with Hala, and then as each question goes, the first person changes. Does that make sense? So Hala gets question 1 and begins, and then question 2 will begin with Tina. Question 3 will begin with Shweta, 4, Ida Rose, and 5, Jerry. Does that make sense? That's how we'll go through. All right. Round robin questions from council and round robin answers from our applicants. So it'll be a good. All right. So we'll begin with question number 1. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Clark. And just for time check, I believe there's a timer right here. So just look straight ahead.
Yeah, so I think we're starting with Hala.
Yes. So Hala, can you hear us, see us? Let's see if we can. I see you're promoted as a panelist.
Yes, good evening. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Will she get video as well or just audio? Okay, great.
Let's see.
Great. Yes, we see you.
I'm allowing the video. Oh, good.
Perfect. Yes, the joys of being a panelist. All right. So Councilmember Clark has question 1 for you.
You probably heard. So question 1 is just what you feel that you would bring to the Environmental Planning Commission that's unique, and hopefully you can see the timer in some way, shape, or form. But I'm sure we'll indicate to you if we can't.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I cannot see the clock. No, it's flat. Well, I can't see it. I'm sorry, but that's okay. You can just stop me. Let me know when it's
Yeah,
when
it's
time.
60 seconds, and it should show right below the mayor there if you're looking at the screen. So.
Yeah, so I am zooming from like half the way across the world and only on my smartphone, so
All good.
I can barely. Yes, I cannot see it, but you can just stop me anyway.
Okay, we'll start now then. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Greetings from Naples, Italy. I am very happy to be able to join. And what would I bring is, I think, my strong advocacy for balancing affordable housing and environmental sustainability. I have lived in Mountain View for a long time. I moved here with my family in 1984. I worked here. I've lived in different neighborhoods. I have experience in environmental sustainability as I was in the task force back in 2016 and 2017 and 18. I have a lot of actions and knowledge for the developments that go around advocating for both, and I have a good, strong technical background.
Thank you.
Great. Next is Tina.
Tina?
Hi, I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about my answers to the Environmental Planning Commission interview. To start, I have lived in the Bay Area for 20 years and in Mountain View for more than 10 years. What I bring to the commission is my experience over the last year on the commission itself, serving, learning a lot from my fellow commissioners and contributing to the commission. Also, I am an environmental civil engineer who have worked for more than 15 years on all sorts of capital projects such as bridges, streets, sidewalks, water, wastewater infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure. And so I understand how planning decisions can translate into real-world projects. Also, I am a mom, and so I spent a lot of time with my family in the community interfacing with other community members. So I have a vested interest in making sure the decisions we make here are well thought out and are implemented for my family and others.
Great. Thanks. Rita?
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm an immigrant from India with lived experience in many parts of the US over the past 28 years, and a very recent resident of Mountain View. I'm a renter currently, and I've lived in the city for just over a year. I live in the Rex Manor neighborhood. I'm an architect by training, but I practiced real estate development for 20 years and worked on mixed-use, large-scale projects with commercial and residential and large-scale master plan developments. I worked at Midpen Housing on affordable development, leading their development team, and I currently have a development consulting practice. I'm passionate about housing, and I also am very passionate about sustainability, mobility, embracing technology, and I'm very involved in the industry, so I bring that development perspective to the table. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Ida Rose?
I bring unique knowledge about land use planning from years working with Mountain View Coalition for Sustainable Planning, evaluating projects, precise plans, zoning, the housing element, and more in partnership with stakeholders, including staff and developers. And in this work, I'm also deeply engaged in thinking about upcoming forces that will impact us, like remote work, economic change, and SB 79. Through our historical association, I focus on land use, understanding how past patterns impact our current environment. I also have brought 8.5-year track record on 2 different advisory bodies, demonstrating successful collaboration with staff and colleagues. I've built consensus building skills through my work as a Mountain View mediator, which also brings me excellent listening and the ability to balance both sides of an issue. I'm deeply connected in my community to stakeholders across the city, and I also hold a minor in city and regional planning. Thank you.
Oh, it says 2 minutes. Ready. Oh, yeah. Should I just start speaking? Because I was like ready. Okay. Hi, my name is Jerry. I'm a Mountain View resident. I'm just applying for this position because I think it's my civic duty. I hold a master's degree in urban planning from San Luis State. I'm a doctoral candidate at USC studying macro social work. And so I feel I have enough education to bring to the table that, I will bring that kind of educational lens to any kind of plans that come in front of me. I have years in front of me, behind me in nonprofit management. Also, I'm an accomplished grant writer. I've been awarded over $15 million in government grants for my various programs. So I have that funder lens for any project. I'm also a GIS geek, so I'm very comprehensive on that. I could teach it. In fact, I'm applying to become a professor at San Luis State right now in the urban regional planning. I'm also on the APA board for California. I am the liaison for UC Berkeley.
Great, thanks. So question 2 will begin with Tina, and Councilmember Ramirez will be the question asker.
The question is, what is the role of a planning commissioner?
All right. I really love this question because I often think of it when I am on the dais and try to verbalize what I want to say, what I want to convey, and how much to say and what to ask. I think it's a great question. What I think a planning commissioner, their role is to serve at the pleasure of council, to think very critically about what staff is bringing forward, to evaluate the staff reports, to ask questions and really kick the tires of what's being proposed. I think I really enjoyed doing that over the last year. In my professional life, I often write staff reports, present to council, and think very critically about what we want to say. So being on this side has been really, really fulfilling, and I feel like that experience has made me a very effective, engaged commissioner during this last year.
I believe the role of a planning commissioner is to be a guide and a steward of both land use policy and land use development for the city. I view this role as working closely with the staff to promote the projects and bring their views to the table to support the council in making responsible decisions that yield the best outcomes for Mountain View and its residents. And as a citizen of Mountain View, which I'm very proud of being, I believe I represent the residents of Mountain View, and I want to bring that perspective to the table.
So tactically, a planning commissioner does several things. One is thoughtful review of development and land use applications to ensure compliance with the general plan, zoning and precise plans, and maybe more importantly, the overall city's vision for its future, as well as conducting long-range and policy planning, such as general plan updates and zoning updates, and looking at these things holistically. But more importantly, it's very important for commissioners to make recommendations to City Council based on very thoughtful analysis of staff reports and weighing stakeholder input extremely carefully. I think to be a good planning commissioner, one needs to be flexible and adaptable to changing needs in changing times, like managing under SB 79 will cause unique challenges, and also economic changes which feel like they're on the horizon. And a robust planner also needs to, or a planner also needs to be a robust listener, understanding and listening to all stakeholders fairly and finding balance among conflicting needs and interests.
I believe a role of a planning commissioner is to hold the zoning codes and laws that the city has put forth in its general plan. Also, conformity to all adherence to the codes that have been set forth. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little nervous right now. Yes, also updating the general plan, looking at our housing needs, speaking with advocates, speaking with stakeholders, and just weighing everything that comes across our commission for the best of Mountain View, and making sure that everything that's put forth by the commission is really for the people. Complete.
Okay, Hala, then that means it's you. So if you can unmute, do you need Lucas to ask Councilmember Ramirez to ask the question again?
No, I think I got it. This is what is the role of a planning commissioner, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So I think the role of a planning commissioner is to give advice and input to the council on how to best balance the developments and the support of affordable housing while trying to sustain and make sure that we have environmental sustainability that is going to serve us now and in the future. Consider the climate extremes and the climate changes that we are facing now. I think also having experiences in serving the city in that capacity, attending a lot of meetings, working with developers so that they understand that when you have that balance, actually things will work out. Oops, sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
I didn't see the clock, so okay.
Sorry.
Thanks.
All right, now for the next question. Okay, and we'll start with Shweta. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Yay, nailed it. All right, what are your thoughts on the city's existing plans, like the general plan and precise plans, specifically the downtown precise plan?
I believe the challenge in the general plans is in meeting the housing needs of the region, and in particularly aligning and staying ahead of the changes that are being enforced by state and assembly bills that will impact the development in this region. Specifically, I think the particular challenge is being able to balance development with preserving the character of existing neighborhoods. The current downtown plan allows up to 85 feet and 60 dwelling units per acre. And if you look at SB 79, which was passed recently, that almost doubles that density and keeping some of the similar heights. So I think that will be a particular challenge when SB 79 gets adopted in the middle of next year, and how that balances out with the requirements of Mountain View's general plan, and looking at areas of the precise plan that are impacted by the proximity to the transit stops. I also believe that there are aspects in the general plan with regards to improving access and improving mobility to the Caltrain station stops. With the improved Caltrain services, I believe there are opportunities to reduce car mileage, promote easier pedestrian and bike access to train stops across key thoroughfares, and increase other modalities of transportation, which will become a particular challenge to review. I also believe that there's an opportunity here where by embracing technology and putting in safeguards, we can improve other modalities of transportation, such as when Waymos and other self-driving options become more ubiquitous in the South Bay. We have to ensure that there's circulation and pick-up and drop-off zones are well coordinated through the planning requirements. And finally,
Thanks.
Oh, and just a reminder, it's a 2-minute question. It's like I think the longest question. Well, there's another 2-minute question, but this is one of the longer ones.
Our general plan is inherently limited by its long view, and ours is aging. It is static, but our community is anything but that. A black swan event like the pandemic shows us that our assumptions in our plan can be completely upended, and other forces may radically change us again, like looming economic uncertainty. But our general plan still provides valid framing, including emphasis on sustainability, inclusivity and equity, mobility and economic vitality, and a smart focus on balanced development, all values that are core to the city. Our precise plans are good in that they help our land use stay current, but they can get out of date and lack having a bigger picture focus. One thing I do love about them, though, is their robust stakeholder feedback included in the newer ones. In the next year, we're going to have to think a lot about the impact of SB 79 and the impact it will have on our plans around downtown, such as the Moffett Boulevard Precise Plan. And that's something the city is going to have to think a lot about. But going back specifically to the Downtown Precise Plan, we set out to create a downtown that is our crown jewel, the heart of our city, an economic and cultural hub that serves everyone in our community. But how do we get there? We need zoning that supports a variety of business types and cultural activities that support a diverse and rapidly evolving population. We need solid plans to support evolving businesses that support the needs of all residents and business owners. We need to balance residential needs with commercial development. We need to make our downtown more transit and pedestrian friendly and preserve historic resources. But to me, it's important that we create vibrant placemaking, include better recreation, green space, canopy, art, communal spaces that serve everybody of all ages and backgrounds, things that draw people into the downtown and keep them there and make them happy. Thank you.
I believe the general plan. I believe the general plan is good, and it meets a lot of currently what we're working on within Mountain View. But like my colleague said, recent state law was recently passed, and our RENA goals for the region and housing needs are not being met. And so we need to identify our downtown in order to meet the needs of state law and also keep up with our RENA needs currently. Our projections are, I believe, are on track to meet those goals, but with the new law, it will not be on track. So that's something that the general plan needs to be updated up with. Also, in addition, for the downtown Castro Street area, moving on to there, I believe it's a really vibrant place. There's a lot of things going good with that area right now. I myself love that area, but there is opportunity for growth. I was speaking to Councilmember Hicks earlier today, and about just my views on downtown. And so there's ideas like night markets at night. There's ideas about activation of art, using more outdoor theater or anything like that, just to bring more people and keep people coming. There's an opportunity for economic development. There's a lot of empty storefronts. I believe if we were to give microloans out and capture small business, we could activate the space even further. Another thing is transportation. With the Caltrans station right there, we should actually build more infrastructure to support the local infrastructure of just all modes of transportation, like bikes, and complete. 2 seconds left.
If I could just interject really quickly, Jerry, the Zoom can't hear you if you don't hold the mic up to your mouth. Okay, yeah.
Hala?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yes, so I have been attending the city council meetings and even working with some of the city staff on some of the developments that are going specifically around downtown. I think the plans were great because the city was really embarking on preserving the historic characteristics of our downtown and increasing housing, more affordable housing around transit, which is great. But of course, SB 79 is going to be a big challenge because we don't really currently have alternative plans, so that if we want to preserve the downtown characteristics, we will have to come up with ideas and ways that we can still do affordable housing, perhaps some around the transit center in that area and some elsewhere. Because I think it's important that we preserve that characteristics that we have. It's very unique. It's what makes Mountain View Mountain View. I have lived in Cuesta Park, and I'm living now near downtown, and it's really vital that we preserve that. It's very vital that we increase green canopy, make it walkable, pleasant, pedestrian friendly. And coming up with alternative plan is going to be probably the biggest challenge we will have, and we have to work on that fairly quickly because I believe by next summer, 2026, those alternative plans have to be ready so that once the implementation of SB 79 take place, we will know how to proceed and how to go ahead.
And thanks, Hala. Then we'll go to Tina.
So I really like this question, although it's hard to go last for this question because I agree with a lot of what my fellow interviewees have said. I have a few points. The general plan provides a great framework to be able to grow sustainably while balance livability for the residents of Mountain View. One of my criticisms of it is that it's quite old. It's gotten quite stale since it was adopted in 2012. And the world has changed so much since then. Remote work, and the people who may have moved in may not have been able to give their voice to such a plan. And I know that staff has it in their work plan to think about updating the general plan in the next several years. Maybe that goes into the next question. So because as the general plan grows older, it really highlights the importance of the precise plans that have been worked on the last couple of years. And I know during my time on EPC, we were able to discuss the Moffett Boulevard precise plan and talk about the vision for that area, which was such a fascinating discussion for me. One of my first EPC meetings was during when that item was brought to us. And we talked about street infrastructure, we talked about the size of the parcels, context of what was proposed within the neighborhood, preserving the adobe house. And so all the detail that's going into these newer plans is amazing. And so I applaud staff and I hope to see similar levels of outreach and engagement for the precise plan that I saw, for the discussions for Moffett and for others as well.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to question 4, and that'll start with Ida Rose, and then that'll be Councilmember Showalter.
All right. Okay, this one is, what do you think the big issues facing the EPC will be? For instance, implementing the housing element, but other things would be good to talk to about as well. We'll start with Ida Rose.
Thank you. I've hinted at this in some of my previous answers, but we are looking down the barrel of economic uncertainty. We've already seen slowing down of development, which is going to make hitting our RHNA numbers all the more difficult, but it's also going to mean less commercial development and less tax revenue from that, and the potential economic impacts on small and large businesses. But also, we're starting to hear from developers that projects, especially ones with community benefits, including BMR units, parking, additional environmental sustainability features like solar panels and all electric, are not penciling out. So I think we're going to face a big challenge about how to meet community needs in an economic downturn. But some other things that are on my mind, Again, economic vitality of our small and large businesses as we go through a downturn. Also providing recreation for all while preserving open space and balancing the needs of our community across our relatively large geographic community. Also, affordable housing. Aside from the housing element, how are we going to provide affordable housing and housing for all? And how are we going to address our homeless strategy in the face of such a rise in our unhoused population since the last point in time count? Those are the things that are on my mind most right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jerry is next.
Ready? I believe the most challenging part of the
Hold
yep,
your mic
got it.
closed. Thanks.
Yeah, I started doing that again. So I believe the most challenging part of the role would be making sure that there is equitable practices amongst all neighborhoods and communities. What is fair for Mountain View? What is fair for every citizen? And I believe that is going to be a challenge, being that we have densified areas of pockets of neighborhoods, and we have very industrialized areas in other parts of the city. So, but I live in one of those areas too, by the way. So I have a little back house on Old Middlefield, and so I look at that and I'm like, wow, like all these other services are being delivered in other areas, but not mine. So I feel a challenge personally. Moving on. So other challenging areas would be homelessness. I myself have a career built on building homelessness programs, and also making sure that our housing needs are going to be met. So it's just going to be challenging to be fair and be able to deliver to all communities and have the equity any kind of plan that comes across the commission's desk. We have to be fair to everyone. With that, complete.
Thank you. And now we go to Hala. Do you need the question reread?
Yes, please, actually.
Okay. What do you think the big issues facing the EPC will be? For instance, implementing the housing element or others?
Yes, I think one of the challenges we're having is ensuring that the developments that are going on in Mountain View have a solid percentage of affordable housing, and I think it's been very challenging to have more than the minimum requirement from the developers to provide that aspect of housing. So perhaps we need to think more about incentives, about ways that we can encourage developers to meet at least the minimum, if not more, the percentage that we require of them to provide affordable housing. Also, the SB 79 is going to be a bit challenging if we want to preserve our downtown characteristics and have that balance between development and the preservation. Then we need to work on that alternative plan. I think it's definitely a big challenge to retain a healthy green space, because we are losing, our heritage trees when these big developments take space. So we need to also find incentives for the developers to understand that what's good for the environment is good for us as well. And how do we make it pedestrian friendly? And
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to Tina.
It's not enough to talk about all the things I'm so excited about coming to the EPC in the next couple of years. As I mentioned, general plan update is very important because of how old the document is and how much change has happened since then. But also there's things like gatekeeper process, streamlining code changes, dark sky ordinance. I agree with a lot of the other folks who've mentioned SB 79 compliance and implementation and doing local alternative plans. That will be very important for us to consider local control of that, of many areas in the city, including downtown. R3 zoning is also important, and we're still waiting on staff to bring that forth as well. Historical preservation ordinance, biodiversity and urban forest plan, all of these are things that have come to the EPC or will come to the EPC, and these are important for us and council to watch out for. And what I like about knowing about all these things is feeling very confident that, you know, the commission and staff can do it together. We have a very, very collaborative environment. And so when I think of these as challenges, I'm not intimidated. I'm really excited that these are identified and would love to continue working on some of these items.
So I believe that the challenges, in addition to some of the state and assembly bills and figuring out the city's general plan and precise plan alignments with those, I believe the big challenge that faces us, and we're not singular in this, is it's the region as a whole is the face of economic changes and the rapid pace at which that's happening. So I think it's going to be key for us to figure out how to build in flexibility and long-term vision into our planning going forward. And that goes to even creating a diversity of housing, because the nature of the population is rapidly changing. So while we're tackling affordability, it extends to providing home for all, including homeless, as well as senior citizens, and the ability to have residents age in place within Mountain View. So with this idea of creating a city for the future and creating a home for all, I believe that extends to looking at mobility options and increasing transportation to decrease the car impact, which then gets into the next big topic of taking on climate resilience and looking at aspects of planning that we have to really think about with the long-term strategy to create better climate resilience for everything that comes in the future. But I do believe we have answers to all this and a process in place to tackle it.
Great. Thanks so much. All right, we're at an exciting point. We're on our last question, and that'll be with Councilmember Hicks, and we'll start with Jerry. Go ahead, Councilmember Hicks.
Yes, so Jerry, in 2 minutes, tell us, how does good land use improve our city, and what is good land use?
Thank you. So good land use is adherent to the zoning code. It is going to provide a all development to have. Hang on, I'm blanking out right now. I'm going back to my college class on land use. So good land use is making sure that adherence to the zoning codes are being upheld, and making sure that all plans are being reviewed for conformity to the law, and it is going to provide the way forward for Mountain View to move forward with good land use. I'm going to leave some time on the table because I don't want to botch this anymore, because I feel like I'm watching this, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So next we're going to hear on the same question from Hala.
Yes, hi, thank you. I think a good land use is finding the balance between providing affordable housing and sustainability, environmental sustainability for our community for now and in the future. Working with the developers, community input, coming up with incentives so that we can have that balance come in. There have been many projects that I've attended hearings of, and we've actually reached out to the developers of some of these projects directly to try to influence them in understanding that when they're preserving our green assets that we have in the city while providing the affordable housing that we need. It's actually a win-win for everyone. And there's been many examples where, one example is for the recent time the community has worked with the 555 Middlefield project, where we went back and forth many times, but they finally came back with preserving more trees, having the units, the buildings for the residents facing not the freeway, Highway 85 behind that project. They also provided walkable, nice wide sidewalks. So they're thinking about not just their residents, but all the communities surrounding them. So we need more and more of those kinds of collaborations that would bring success for both the developers, the new residents that will be here, and the current residents that have been here for a long time. Thank you.
Yes, so Tina.
All right. So good land use is so important. Good land use and planning is one of the most important ways that cities can influence what gets built and influence what really affects people. Once you build something, it's going to be there for quite some time. So careful thinking ahead of time, careful planning, careful design is really important. And so when I think about good land use, I think of the residents and what the people would want. In general, we've heard, and I feel this as well, is we want, green spaces, we want walkability, we want bikeability, we want balanced growth for affordable housing, but also we want jobs and transit, and we want to protect our open spaces. So that's all a lot. That's really challenging. There's trade-offs. One of the things that I love to consider when I'm on EPC is that when we make decisions, it's going to last for quite some time. And so things are changing. So I don't only think about what the needs are now, what would be the needs in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I think about projects that come in front of us, what they have to offer, and what they would bring to our community in the future. All right.
Thank you. And now, Shweta, do tell me if you want me to repeat the question.
No, I have it. Thank you. So I believe good land use is what gets a city designated as the very first pro-housing city. I believe good land use is what gets a city an employer as big and impactful as a Google. And then I think good land use is what really helps make this a valid point going forward into the future. So I believe to extend these successes, a city like Mountain View needs to have its plan be flexible and adaptable to the changes of changing economic environments in the future. It's also about creating sustainable forms of development, ones that promote sustainability within the environment, but also minimize the impact of resources, minimize adverse environmental impact to the surroundings, and are able to tackle the preservation of green spaces and figure out how to sustain them with climate resiliency. I also think that good land use is key to providing and promoting economic vitality by providing for a diverse population and by creating optimal and vital synergies between different land uses, so we're able to develop a very cohesive city fabric that promotes for circulation and communication of its residents, of its employers with great ease. Thank you.
And to close out, Ida Rose.
Mountain View, a wonderful city, is almost entirely built out. We have valuable history, incredibly vibrant neighborhoods, an engaged community, wonderful socioeconomic diversity, and precious environmental resources like our bayshore and our marshes. And we must steward these. We must practice good land use that preserves what is so special about this community, supporting our current and future populations, all while we contend with not knowing what the future will hold. Good land use is important because it improves our city by increasing immediate and long-term livability and sustainability of a city meant for all of us. It makes Mountain View a place where people are proud to live, work, and play, providing housing for everyone, supporting thriving small and large business, and maintaining our rich cultural and recreation activities and a sense of community that is so unique to our city. And something as a planning geek I like to think is that good land use planning creates efficiency for future staff and council who can build upon our good work today, being more efficient rather than having to scramble and reinvent and deal with problems we didn't address for them. And good land use thoughtfully takes into account and balances unique stakeholder needs and interests. Good land use is holistic. It's more than just buildings. It's more than just the basic built environment. It's about community for all. It looks at the bigger picture, including transportation, safe bike and pedestrian access, infrastructure impacts on things like our wastewater and recycled water systems, community impacts, including preserving our equity and diversity, recreation for all, school systems, sustainability, green space, placemaking, and the human element, all while trying to back that up to the goals of the overall general plan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So that concludes our questions. I'll now bring the matter to council for discussion and a recommendation to the council for 2 seats. The term runs from January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2029, which is the opening on the Environmental Planning Commission. And before we get into our discussion and recommendation, let's thank all of our applicants. You may leave your interviewee area. You're welcome to stay or leave, whichever you prefer. And we'll remove Hala as a panelist as we move into this discussion and deliberation recommendation portion of our meeting. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right. So per the selection process outlined in Council Policy Number K-2, when voting, each council member shall vote for as many candidates as there are open seats. So for example, we have 2 seats available tonight, so we can vote for no more than 2 people. If there is a tie vote, we will re-vote on the tied applicants, and the applicant with the highest number of votes wins. This process can be changed upon a majority vote of the council tonight. And our majority tonight is 4, well, yeah, 4, because there's 6 of us, yeah. So it remains the same. So we can now discuss our recommendations for the 2 members to the Environmental Planning Commission, or we can proceed directly to a vote by ballot. I'll leave it up to colleagues. I see some people are already in the queue, so we'll start there. Vice Mayor Ramos.
Thank you, Mayor. I really just wanted to comment on how really good the applicant pool was this time around, and each of them kind of have a different reason why I really like them. I think it is no secret. We are very familiar with how much Hala cares about our community. I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm glad she's applying for a commission like this. I had the opportunity, Tina is our incumbent essentially, and we had the opportunity to see how she performs on the board, and she has performed very well, and it shows in her answers where she has done. I'm trying to be very quick. Shweta actually had my favorite answers. Those answers were like bangers to me. I was just like, that's the best answers. I love them. And with Ida Rose, I really value people's commitment to essentially our local government. She has served on the HRC for a very long time, as long as she legally could. So like that demonstrated commitment is very valued. And then we have Jerry, who is also a GIS nerd, and that speaks to my heart because I really love that, even though I probably am not as good as he is because I'm a bit rusty. So we do have, there's some people call it the embarrassment of riches, or like Councilmember Showalter likes to call it the perils of prosperity. And I just like to think of it as the impact of being the best city where we have the best residents and therefore the best applicants. So it's going to be a very difficult decision. I think all of you we would be lucky to have any of you on our planning commissions. But yeah, it's just going to be a difficult position. Thank you for applying, though.
Councilmember Showalter.
Well, it's really hard to follow that, Vice Mayor Ramos, but I agree. We have a group of people who are all uniquely qualified to do this job, and I'm very grateful that for the time and effort they put in to apply. I did get to talk to all of them, except for Hala. She was in Naples, but I've known her for like 30, 40 years now, so that was okay. And yeah, we really do have a very impressive group. And perhaps it is a peril of prosperity that we have. You know, we have people stepping up because we have good resources to work with, and we have very interesting problems, and we have a history of, of getting things done. And so that makes stepping up and being part of the process much more attractive than it could be some other places. That said, I'm just going to get the process moving and say I appreciate the idea that we have an incumbent who has spent time on the EPC and has done a good job and answered questions well. And I think, and typically it is our custom to continue with incumbents. And I would just like to start by moving that we reappoint Tina Pham.
I think that per the policy,
do we have to do two at a time?
We have to do two. That's my understanding. Is that right? Or we can go one at a time? Okay,
Okay,
great.
you can
Okay,
go
until
one
we
now.
fill, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we have a motion, so if we can have a seconder, I don't think we need a form if we're. Sometimes we vote for the public. Sometimes we vote all at once and we vote on a form. Or tonight, it seems like we're going to be voting one at a time with a motion, and that's fine too. Those are part of our policies, and that's okay. Or looking to however colleagues would like to do it. But we have a motion, so before we go forward, do we have a second? Do people want to talk about it? The motion is to reappoint Tina Pham. And that was seconded by Councilmember Ramirez. Okay, we have a motion, the seconder. We'll continue discussion. Thank you. Councilmember Hicks.
Okay, well, I was not expecting that. I think everybody looks perplexed not because we do have a tradition of reappointing an incumbent, but my experience is that most of the time we pass out a piece of paper and we write down who we're voting for. So, Pat, I think, or Councilmember Showalter, I think you threw us all for a loop. Anyway, that was your intention.
No,
okay, great.
no.
Okay, so I have a question about process. Are we thinking, or maybe nobody's thinking about it at all, of doing a piece of paper for the second one?
Sure.
Okay.
I think that's up to our discretion, and looking at the city clerk, we can. So I think that right now it's discussion and recommendation, and so I think we have we've had some discussion, and then we got a recommendation for one, and then we can continue people's thoughts, or we can take a vote as is, and then more discussion and talk before we vote for the second. I think it's all within the umbrella of the policy. Looking at the clerk, she says yes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, for clarifying that for me. Because apparently I'm easily confused. I will either support this motion, and if it doesn't pass, I will be voting anyway to reappoint the incumbent. And I just wanted to echo what other council members have said, and I'm not going to say it at length because they did, but I think these are some of the most, I've been on council for 6.5 years. I've applied for EPTC twice and never been voted on because they didn't want anybody with a planning degree on the planning commission. That was the council. You were not on that council, Chris. So I think this council has a different position, hopefully because almost all of you have planning degrees. So yeah, I am really impressed both by length of service for people who've been here for a while on things that I really care about with the city, the level of thoughtful detail. I did talk to everyone before tonight, except for Tina Pham, because I talked to her in the past. And just had, it made me want to appoint everyone or want everyone to remain engaged in some way. Let's see. So yes, okay. So I think that's what I'll say at this point.
Great. Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that since there's a motion on the floor that we can, when we're ready, we can dispense with that, and then we can probably have another round of comments if the mayor is comfortable with that.
Yeah,
but
I'm happy to call the question.
Okay, yeah, and I just wanted to say, Commissioner Pham, I've been following your work on the EPC and watching some of the meetings, and I just want to say I think you're doing an excellent job. And reappointment isn't always a given. I think I was skipped over once and then almost not reappointed. I don't remember, but anyway, I think you're doing an excellent job, and there's no reason for at least for me not to vote to reappoint you. So thank you for all the work that you're doing, and I hope you'll continue that work as well.
Great. All right. Would you like to say something? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, I'll just do my comments after we vote then. All right. Why don't we vote on the motion, and that's to appoint Tina Pham for the Environmental Planning Commission. Take the vote. Great, and that passes unanimously with those present. Wonderful. And before we get into discussion, I just want to give a sincere thanks to all our applicants. It is nothing like putting yourself literally in the hot seat to answer these really easy questions. Not just, but I was so impressed by the thoughtfulness in terms of the preparation, the quality of the answers, both in person, but also the applications. I thought the applications were quite robust, and I thought to myself, kind of like when I think about people applying to college these days, I think I could never get in. And now, similar, I don't know if I can get on planning commission now. Wow. But it made me feel so happy to live in Mountain View. The vice mayor always talks about how we live in the best city, and tonight's interview process just reminded me of that. Because everybody put their heart and soul into these applications, and they want to volunteer for their time to be with us and serve. So I just wanted to say thanks, and per what we always say on council, if this is not a successful endeavor tonight, it doesn't mean you can't try twice, 3 times, or we have so many different ways to engage, and I'm really proud of the city for leaning into that. So do we have any further discussion, or would folks like to do paper vote? Councilmember Ramirez.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to belabor the discussion. I'm also ready for the paper vote, but I wanted to echo what you've just said, both on the gratitude for everyone who stepped up to apply. It's not an easy thing to do. Very similar to like a candidate form. You have a very limited amount of time to answer very challenging questions. And so I commend everyone who goes through that, I think, very intimidating process. And I also was very proud to reappoint you, or to recommend to ourselves to reappoint you, Commissioner Pham. I think you've been doing a phenomenal job. And what you said, Mayor, really struck me because I couldn't agree more. I feel like I think you were a fabulous commissioner, having served with you, but it does often feel like the standard keeps getting raised, and we have everyone who applied had technical expertise in the subject matter. And when I applied, I was a kid with a music major, right? So I don't know why I was appointed, but the council at the time didn't have better options. But this time we have very strong options, and it makes it very difficult to pick. And I agree with many members of the council who all suggested we hope that if you don't get in this time, please continue to remain involved in the community, run for city council. There are lots of ways to do good work here. But unusually, I actually feel very strongly about this. I don't like to disclose who I'm going to vote for, but I was very impressed with Shweta's application and responses. And so I'll be supporting you. And I know everyone has different perspectives about this, but I was, like the Vice Mayor said, very impressed with your concise and robust responses, and just wanted to share in case that happens to be persuasive to anyone. I think Shweta is worthy of your consideration and would represent a portion of Mountain View that often doesn't have representation on these types of bodies. Is a renter. We don't often get renter applicants. Has technical expertise, and I think would do a phenomenal job. So, but if someone else gets appointed, I'll be very happy because everyone is excellent. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion, or shall we vote? All right. I'm not seeing any other discussion, so we will vote and then pass it to the city clerk. Oh, did you have something you wanted to say? Did you not get a paper? Okay. All right. We're not commenting. All right. We are paper voting and we are passing.
Are you ready for the vote, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Kamei voted for Shweta. Vice Mayor Ramos voted for Shweta. Councilmember Ramirez voted for Shweta. Councilmember Showalter voted for Ida Rose. Councilmember Clark voted for Ida Rose. And Councilmember Hicks voted for Ida Rose. So you'll need to re-vote.
Okay. So I think we will re-vote. Does anyone want to share any comments or any discussion before we go to vote again? Councilmember Showalter.
Yeah, as we both said, we have a really great candidate pool this time, and I feel very blessed by that. I think that having somebody who has only lived here for a year be on our commission, if that might work, if we didn't have people who had a little more experience with the community. I think that one of the things that the planning commissioner is supposed to do is represent the community. And so you have to have a knowledge of that community. And we have, you're right, I completely was just very, very impressed by Swarta. But I do feel that it would be better for her to do this maybe in a few years after she's been more a part of our community. Whereas Ida Rose has stepped up again and again and again. She served on our HR commission for 7+ years. She ran a very important housing, history of housing program that hundreds of Mountain View residents went to. She ran for city council previously. She was on, I think, both sustainability task force, as was Hala, frankly, on both sustainability task force. So she's just, I'll be happy with either one of them because they're both such great candidates. But I think that connection to our community is really vital. When I was on the Planning Commission, my kind of, you know how when we do these jobs, we have these little snippets of, okay, what is this? What do I do? And my feeling was my job, the staff brought us the technical information about planning. You know, they know about the zoning codes. They know about the details of the general plan. They know about good planning principles, which, by the way, you learn a tremendous amount about when you serve on the Planning Commission. But they don't know the details of how the community members and community neighborhoods interact. And I think that we need planning commissioners to bring that viewpoint to our to the commission meetings. So that's the delimiter that I see. Thank you.
Councilmember Clark.
I just want to think aloud and not persuade, if I may. I completely agree with what Councilmember Showalter said. I'm also hearkening back to when I was first appointed and other appointments that we've done. And by the way, I think either of these candidates would be amazing. We have an embarrassment of riches here with this applicant pool. And also, by the way, there will be 2 open seats next year. So that's one way to stay involved, and there are other ways to stay involved too. But the counterpoint is that you also have to look at the current makeup of the EPC, and we have a lot of longtime residents on EPC right now, some of which are concentrated in areas that are tend to be overrepresented over time. And I think it's good to have a mix of both new voices and folks who have been in the city a really long time. I don't think we currently have anyone who has worked at an affordable housing developer like Mid-Penn, and has a background as an architect. So I don't know how I'm going to vote at the moment. Everything that Councilmember Showalter said about Ida Rose is accurate. The involvement with the community over the years, the organizing, the background not just in HRC but in housing and running for council and putting yourself out there. So I am very willing to hear from other council members who would like to share their thoughts and opinions too, because I'm torn. So I just wanted to think aloud, because I think it's both really important that we appoint folks who have a background there and really understand the city, but also to have the representation for folks who are newer to Mountain View and also see the city through a different lens. I'm trying to think through the current makeup, and it's a lot of folks who've been in the city a long time. So I'll stop talking.
Councilmember Hicks.
Okay, you may regret asking us to think out loud on the dais, but so on the one hand, I hate doing this. I would much rather have a secret ballot. I can just leave. I mean, just voting in a non-secret ballot. I have to say that, that on the one hand, I really honor being deeply engaged in the community over a long time. To me, it's not so much whether you've lived here for a long time as whether you've been deeply engaged, and partly because when you've been deeply engaged, you can hit the ground running. You know, you've probably seen we've sometimes had applicants to the EPC or whatever, you know, the Performing Arts Committee who want to perform on stage or, you know, just have no idea what they're getting into. And the more you've been involved with MVCSP and then run for council and so forth, the more you know what you're getting into. So that's important to me. On the other hand, I have to say, I did talk to everybody because I was hoping to find somebody more horrible than they were in their application and throw them out. And I was really disappointed that my conversations were better than the applications. And I have to say, Sweta in particular, I felt like I was talking to myself in terms, she may hate me for saying this, but in terms of balancing that, I sometimes tell people that, okay, I'll come out as a livability YIMBY, that I care deeply about both parts of that equation. And she spoke to that very deep. You can say that, but can you back it up in detail? And she did. At the same time, Ida Rose can speak to those things too, and frankly, Hala can as well. And I like Jerry too. But I think he should apply for the Rental Housing Committee. So the big thing for me is there will be vacancies and soon. So that, yeah, I mean, that influences me as well. There, I thought out loud for you.
Councilmember Ramirez.
Thank you, Mayor. I've already had a bite at the apple, so I don't want to take too much time, but I think a lot of important and compelling points made by my colleagues. But to add on to thoughts I shared earlier, I think it's important, having participated in city governance for a long time, I'm in this moment feeling a particular need to ensure that we have representation of communities that will probably feel the brunt of the change that will come out of a lot of the land use planning work that we've been doing. We don't have, like, if you think about, you know, Rex Manor, right? There's a lot of R3 in that area, not so much south of El Camino. We have, I think, currently 4, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 planning commissioners who live south of El Camino, and that's not because, you know, not to say that south of El Camino is not important. It's just that's not where most of the change will likely occur over the next several years. That's not like where change is likely to occur based on our land use planning. So I want to make sure that areas that are going to see some potentially significant change, right, either through the R3 update or through some of the state legislation that was described earlier, that those communities, those neighborhoods enjoy representation on governing bodies where they will be able to share their experience in living through that change and helping shape it. And, you know, we don't have a lot of renters, and I do want to encourage folks who often are not represented to step up and share the experience of dealing with an affordability crisis as well. But again, that's not to say that homeowners don't feel that pinch as well, but I think part of, you know, the reality in Mountain View, almost 60% of our residents rent. They feel it more acutely, and I want to make sure that that representation remains robust in the work that we do. And, you know, I think it's also important to say, you know, we look at the demographic profiles of our community, and we don't often have South Asian representation on most of our appointed bodies, and I think that's important to consider as well. Thank you.
Great.
Just one thing to point out in terms of years in the community. I recall when I applied to the RHC, I actually was about the same amount of time in the community as Shweta, but there was also like other factors, like I was involved in the community before I moved here. I believe her work in Mid-Penn probably also made up for that too. I'm very fond of Ida Rose. I wish you were my colleague. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
She might be.
One day. So like it was basically between those two that I had to pick, and it also does speak a lot to me that Shweta is a renter and lives in Rex Manor, which we don't get a lot of Rex Manor applicants, and that's an area that's getting a lot of impact from a lot of our land use decisions. So that's where I'm kind of balancing it both. I have a feeling all the rest of my colleagues are balancing those same kind of challenges because we have really good applicants, and now we're getting that last final weigh in, and it's kind of amazing that we had a perfect tie. But yeah, this is something that I will be struggling with for a long time.
Great, thank you. So before we go for our second round of votes, I think this is when I say, well, that's why there's 7, and not 6. But here we are, and we will let Mr. McAllister know when he, I know he's zooming in. So we'll let him know we miss him. But I just want to say that I'm trying as much as possible to take as holistic of an approach and kind of a 30,000-foot view as possible. And the considerations that I have are less about how long someone has lived somewhere or necessarily where they live in our community, and more about the council priorities that we're working on and who might fit into our EPC right now, who could help add some discussion and color to those council priorities and discussions. Because I feel like what's wonderful about our community is whether you've lived here a year and a half or 30 plus years, we're a community for everyone, or you're in-house, you're still our resident, you're our community member. But I will say, and I think all my colleagues will know this, one of the things that I'm deeply passionate about is creating pathways for people to feel like they can become homeowners if they want to in Mountain View. And I've been working on that the entire time I was on EPC and on our council, and thinking about pathways to homeownership, particularly for our middle income. And as we're talking, I mean, the diversity of our planning commissioners and the areas that they live in the city is great, but being able to have a perspective of understanding of what it's like to maybe be in an unstable house situation or renting, and then hopefully becoming a homeowner, going through that process, it's just a lived experience that I value, and I think that's important. And she might not even remember this, but I recall when we broke ground on the Mid-Penn project on Shoreline, and Shweta was there, and I just know that she has been deeply involved in that work from my experience with her, and creating those opportunities for pathways to stable housing and pathways to ownership, and creating those pipelines. And for me, that's just my experience and the thing that has stood out to me. And that's where my vote had come from prior, and I just want council members to know that, because we have been working on that middle income affordability work plan item for 6.5 years, and so I just wanted to share that. So, shall we vote?
You ready for the vote, Mayor? Okay. Councilmember Clark voted for Ida Rose. Councilmember Showalter voted for Ida Rose. Councilmember Hicks voted for Shweta. Mayor Kamei voted for Shweta. Vice Mayor Ramos voted for Shweta. And Councilmember Ramirez voted for Shweta. So, there you go.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so do we need a please?
No, you're good. So on December 9th, we'll bring back your recommendation to reappoint Tina and then to appoint Shweta to those 2 terms.
Okay, great. Thank you, City Clerk. All right, and just want to deeply thank our applicants once again for hanging in there with us and for putting yourself out there to serve our city. And as my colleagues reminded us, it sounds like we have 2 vacancies next year, so we'll be at this again, and so hopefully we'll have people reapply. All right, so with that, I get to move on to adjournment. The next City Council meeting will be held on October 28th at 2025. So we are adjourned at 7:29 p.m.